Hello, my name is Taylor Jefferson, and I am going to be reviewing and summarizing Chapter 3 in our book for Criminal Justice 4300, Summer Session 1. I chose to do Chapter 3, and the name of Chapter 3 was The Etiology of Sexually Deviant Behavior. I chose this because it's really good to kind of know the basis and kind of where things start and where they may come from. One of the things that I was not aware of that I learned from the chapter was about the definition of the different, the definition of the different types of offenses or the categories that they may be listed in. Specifically, when they said paraphilias, I wasn't aware that there was a specific way to say each category. So they are stating that a paraphilia is just a sexual disorder. And of course, that can be many different things. Some of the things that they outlined were sexual abuse, rape, some of the things that may be non-contact that I noticed, exhibitionism, voyeurism, those things were interesting as well. And some of those things could be seen as risque or inappropriate for some, and in others it may just be their way of expressing themselves sexually, but it could be considered an offense, especially when it comes to children. I'm really interested in the DSM-5. I think this one is the DSM-4 still is on here, but the DSM-5, I use that every day at work, and it's really interesting to see what's categorized. I mainly work with children, but seeing all of the different, specifically one of them is talking about like the 8 main paraphilias, and this is from the older DSM. But a lot of times, there was a show on like one of the cable networks, and it really focused on exhibitionism, and it was like you think of, when people go and they do it was a fetish type show that had like hedonism and all of that, and it was risque but still seen as not a problem because it's kind of closed in. Sorry, it's closed in, and everyone there is consenting to what they're doing. It talks about a lot of different things, and when it went into specifically some of the, I guess, the fetishism, which that's like all over, it's really common, but the fetishes, some of the fetishes that I thought were interesting, plushophilia, so like plushies, people that are aroused by stuffed animals, people dressed as stuffed animals, urophilia, being urinated on, coprophilia, being defecated on, the I don't know, it was, some of these were kind of odd, like the mannequins and things, so those things were different. One other thing in here that I was noticing is the deviant behavior, and then all the different theories, like attachment theories. Like, okay, so you think about it, well, where is this coming from? What would cause someone to do something what's considered sexually deviant? What would cause someone to cause harm to someone for sexual pleasure? And a lot of times it's stating that it comes from their childhood. At some point in time in their childhood, someone exposed them to the deviant behavior, or being molested, or being abused emotionally or physically, and that causes a rage or a short temper, which some people, then they need to hurt you. There's a fetish or where you strangle the other person, or you pretend to do that. So those type things all have a deep-rooted um, etiology. I thought that was really interesting. Um, just overall, I think my main thing about it was where they come from, and the different theories that come along with that. And the reason why it's stating the theories, they just are things that just thoughts and reasons, like the social theory, attachment, which when I read it, I understood it to be, someone did harm to them and their attachment to that maybe time frame or that person has them in their mind, excuse me, associating themselves with pleasure or associating themselves with safety or comfort, like a whoopee of some sort. A familiar smell, a familiar sound, a song, or something like that, and makes them attached and they kind of get stuck. Another thing too, rape culture. It's a very touchy, sensitive subject, and the way that they presented it with the women, or a feminist theory. And it says it analyzes rape with a cultural, political, and historical context. And feminists cite sexual crime as an example of men's oppression of women. Sexual gratification is not the primary motive for rape, but rape is a tool to dominate and control women. So that's still very much, I believe, it is the men that are trying to assert themselves and or overpower the women, and that's the endorphins, the adrenaline, their testosterone, it just makes them super aggressive. And I think that's still very much the case. That yes, there's still the feminist underlying to rape culture. Men can be raped too, and that's more common now, given that there's a lot more bisexuality or homosexuality, and things are more open, the LGBTQ community and everything that's going on with that. So it's easier, I guess, for more people to talk about. It's still difficult to talk about once you've experienced, but more easy to bring into the light. So I thought that chapter was really interesting. It kind of just gave you a basis, a lot of things that you don't normally hear about, but or go into detail about. But I thought that was really interesting to read about the beginnings, the development of some of these sexually deviant behaviors. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and it was a great chapter. Thanks. Bye bye.